it being 10 minutes after we're supposed to start, I'll go ahead and start this, and hopefully with there being 3 different panelists from different parts of the country, this will be sufficiently representative of the fandom for Comic-Con. Once again, thanks everyone for being here at home and willing to participate in this recording. Let's go ahead and start with the first question. Please start with what's your name and what organization are you representing for this panel?
Who's starting with?
Who goes first?
Well, let the lady go first, and then let's go alphabetically from there.
Okay. Well, hi. My name is Eliana Summers, or Dexanth, and I suppose in this case I represent PonyFest Online. And as well as that, I used to be the vice chair of BronyCon for its final 2 years. Let's see, and then am I doing the whole list of questions here? Or just
just the first one.
Cool. All right, I think that covers that one.
Well, my last name is a V, so I guess I'm last. So you're next.
Sure thing. Hey, my name is Cole Daigneault, also known as Simul or Simul. People say it different ways. I usually say Simul. Doesn't matter to me what you call me. And I'm here to represent Everfree Northwest, based out of Seattle, Washington. We are the world's longest running 3-day My Little Pony fan convention.
All right. My name's Ted Visser. Sometimes I go by Tedwin online. I was the chairman of Pacific PonyCon in San Diego for the 2 years we did it, 2016 and 2017. And I live down here in sunny San Diego, California. And we didn't do anything last year for a number of reasons. I wouldn't have been able to do it either way because I was actually deployed with the military. I'm part-time Navy, so that's where I've been. James?
So my name's James. I won't give my last name, but my handle online is Right Cow Left Coast. I'm a coordinator with San Diego Wikimedians User Group, a Wikimedia Foundation affiliate. And I had also been on Ted's staff at Pacific PonyCon, and I am an event organizer with SoCal Bronies on meetup.com. The next question that we have is, give a brief synopsis of what the organization is and the role that you have in the fandom.
All right. Are we going to just keep on going same order? Okay. Yes. Well, PonyFest Online, I'm going to assume, is the youngest of the bunch here, seeing as we did not exist until the end of March on account of the fact that we started when I went, hey, can someone do an online event in under a week? And then I tried to get one of my friends to run it, and they wouldn't. So I had to. And basically, we exist because COVID happened. We're all trapped inside. And a lot of, the people who vend at these conventions, that's their livelihood. And a lot of them are friends of mine. So PonyFest Online really was me going, hey, if I do all the other trappings of a con, that'll hopefully get a bunch of people coming in. And some of them will go to the vendor hall, and some of them will spend money. And then it turned out people really liked our mascot Bitrate, so we were able to just tell all the vendors, hey, basically we gave them our IP to go wild with, and I know we've been able to help them out a bunch, and that's awesome.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. I guess it's me next, and yeah, I actually also worked with PonyFest when they started up, and that's been
Simul was our events head for every event we've run so far.
Yeah, a lot of fun. But back to Everfree, I guess. So I'm the chair of Everfree, as I said before. We are the world's longest running 3-day My Little Pony fan convention based out of Seattle, Washington. So we've been going on for the past 9 years, and our purpose has been working to build community, spread joy, and just essentially bring the magic of Equestria to Earth for 3 days. That is actually our mission statement. We're also a 501c3 federal nonprofit organization, and each year we raise thousands of dollars through the generosity of the Brony community, and those funds go towards good causes, generally in the area of caring for kids and families. We've worked with Seattle Children's Hospital. More recently, we've worked with a group called Washington. What is this? Washington Autism Alliance and Advocacy Group, and they've been our partner in the most recent years. But yeah, like many of these events, we're here to serve the community, and we've had the privilege of doing that for the past 9 years.
So we've got the brand new convention here, and we've got the longest running convention, and I feel kind of like a washed up has been hearing all that stuff. But I was with Pacific PonyCon. Our parent organization was called Order of the Friendship, but we were a 3-day pony convention in San Diego, California. We were trying to help serve SoCal. We originally started out when there were rumors of Equestria LA going away, which was the other Southern California My Little Pony convention. We also did some charity while we were at it as well. We did stuff for San Diego Habitat for Humanity and also for the American Red Cross. Those are the charities that we supported. But yeah, I support you guys carrying on the fight. We weren't able to continue, unfortunately, but it was a good run while it lasted. And even then, I do occasionally work with James getting events organized down here in Southern California.
So, other than Wikipedia, as I said, I'm an event organizer with SoCal Bronies on Meetup.com. We've been part of the fandom since the early part of the fandom, and we try to hold monthly meetings throughout Southern California. We have events in Inland Empire, Greater LA area, and here in San Diego County, and that's my role. But I wouldn't say I'm the head of that organization by any means. I'm just a supporter.
You do seem to kind of take the lead down here in San Diego.
Well, Southern California is a rather big area to cover. So the next question is, what do you believe the state of the fandom now that more than a half a year has passed since Friendship is Magic has ended?
Oh, you're muted.
Let me unmute myself. Yep. Honestly, with that one, I think it's really much the same as it's been since around this time in 2016 or so. And the reason I'm saying that is that, I've been in this since season 1 was airing. So I've kind of seen like literally this entire ride, from the moment that it was niche on 4chan and expanding outward. I remember seeing pony avatars sprouting up for a month or two before I finally gave in and, just watched the first episode on YouTube. Long story short, kind of the peak of energy in the fandom was somewhere between 2012 and 2015. And that plateau was clear to everyone, and kind of like the energy changed in 2015, like into 2016. And it entered this, I'm not going to call it a decline, but rather just this kind of sense of it's felt mature since then.
Yeah.
So the rate of people entering has slowed down a lot, but the rate of people leaving has slowed down as well. And the net result is, honestly, it feels the same, because the people who are still here are here, for the friends they've made and the fun they've had. And we don't need Hasbro, giving us more episodes for that. There's 200 of those to play around with, and more fan works than any one of us can consume in a lifetime.
Yeah.
So the fandom's good. Sorry for the long answer.
No, that's good. I more or less agree with that. I think a lot of it also depends on who it is that you ask. I haven't been around for quite as long as Dex. I think I joined between seasons 1 and 2. But my answer was kind of similar to that, where for the longest time, I honestly thought it was like a joke, because I would just see pony avatars show up on different sites and memes and all that kind of thing. And I honestly had no idea there even was a fandom. I didn't realize people were being serious about it until I saw, I don't know if anyone remembers when knowyourmeme.com did their video on Bronies. That was the first time I even heard the word Brony, first time I even understood there was a fandom. And it wasn't just this ironic meme kind of thing. But I was never one of those people that was super resistant to it, because I was already familiar with fan culture from other areas. So it was familiar ground to me in that sense. It has been interesting being around for so long, just seeing how it has evolved. you know, because obviously there's a notion that the fandom is dying, and for those of us that have been around a long time, people have been saying that since 2012, right? So I don't get too concerned about it.
The time the fandom died was Derpygate.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That was the first big controversy when I was a fan, when I had been in the fandom that I remember encountering. That was a whole thing, but I really do think it depends on who you ask, because a lot of the people that are saying, oh, the fandom is dying, you know, musicians, artists, those people are less active. We're not getting the same kind of content that we got in the early days of the fandom. Usually you hear that sentiment from someone who's been in the fandom for a long time. And if you go and ask people that just joined the fandom recently, like a few months ago, because yes, there are still people, new people joining the fandom all the time, ask them how they feel, and it's a completely different world. It almost seems like we're talking about completely different groups, different fandoms. So I often think that maybe the reason some people view the fandom as being this declining, dying thing is maybe they themselves are just less involved with it, or they're not paying attention to the same areas that newer people are paying attention to. And at the same time, I don't want to suggest that that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, oh, you're disconnecting. Like, that's fine. I think fandom communities like this have a very specific purpose to serve in a given person's life. And if it's basically the whole, you know, it's okay to hang up the phone once you get the message kind of thing. I think it's fine to recognize this for the amazing fluke of like the perfect storm of creativity and people wanting to find camaraderie in different communities, everything coming together in such a way. And I think it's okay to value it as that, as unique and special. And it's okay to take a step back too. So that was meandering a bit, but I don't think overall that the fandom is on a decline. I think, I like the word Dex used, it's mature at this point. We've kind of reached our stasis point, if that makes sense. But I'll leave it at that. No, there's more thoughts from other people.
So yeah, I'm kind of in the same place. It feels like, something comes out, it becomes a hit, and it gets very big very quickly, and a lot of people get enthusiastic about it, and you get this outpouring of, just enthusiasm, right? And I think that you'll find out there that there are fandoms that go through these sort of cycles of boom and bust, where people are very excited for a while, and then they aren't as excited, but there are still people who enjoy whatever it was, and then there's still that community left over whatever it was. Examples include things like Star Trek, right? Star Trek's been around since the 60s. Doctor Who has been around since the 60s, and so there's been people who have been with it for a very long time, and then some event happens. In this case, it was really kind of the beginning when this happened, where things got very popular very quickly, right? The new Doctor Who came out, or whatever else. And you get this big boom of new people in the fandom, but the other people were always still there, right? And there are some people who are always going to complain about the new fans. There's people who complain about, oh, it used to be better in the old days. But I think you're still going to get that. I mean, I'm one of those people that's less active than I was. I mean, part of it was forced disconnection due to being overseas. But part of it is just I've got a million things going on. I mean, you can see behind me, I just moved into this house, which is why my junk's everywhere, and I can't get the green screen to work right. So
I actually want to throw in one thing too, that even like Friendship is Magic, we're the new swarm in the My Little Pony fandom, but there's been people who've been around since the 80s. So to them, we're this giant, out of nowhere that came into their
space. The newbies, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and again, I feel like it's gonna be much less of this explosive growth and craziness, and it's just gonna be much more steady state. I met James, for example, through the fandom, and that's a relationship that I'm gonna hold for a long time, regardless of what happens to the fandom or not. But I mean, we're still gonna share that in common, regardless. And there's a number of other people like that in the San Diego area and in Southern California, and throughout the United States. There's also a fairly sizable community of military bronies, and we have a group which shall not be named online. We keep in contact with each other all the time, and it's a weird crossover of two relatively niche communities. But you find your friends where they are, and we still chat with all these guys, even if it's maybe not every conversation is about Pony these days. Maybe it's about other stuff too. But those kind of fandoms go on. So I think it's more of a steady state as opposed to an explosive growth the way it was before.
I like that you mentioned, just to interject quickly, about you'll get together and you're not necessarily talking about ponies all the time, because that's exactly how it happened with me and the Bronies that I met in the Seattle community. It really is that, you come for the ponies, but you stay for the friendship. And friendship means you're going to be talking about your everyday life. You're not always just going to be talking about horses, because that's how you met the person. So I almost feel like that adds to the strength of the fandom, is that it really has allowed people to make those connections and make new friendships with people.
It's like my major fan group. It used to be all horse stickers that everyone spammed. And now you still see horse stickers, but like now everyone has their individual Telegram quirks.
Right.
So doing local meetings, of course, it's been impossible with the lockdown and the quarantines and whatnot. However, like all three of you have shared, there's starting about season 7, a number of people who would show up to our events started to decline. But what you did end up was with a steady set of people, and it's usually the same people, because they're the people who ended up starting with the fandom, as you had said, but staying for the people that they met within the fandom. And we've seen some people grow out of it in some ways for the better, where they've gained new connections and new life skills and being part of the fandom and have moved on, and some who've decided to stay, and where they're in a steady place in their life where they can still incorporate the fandom into the free time that they have, and others who've matured and went, well, that's great, that was fun, now I'm finished with education or work training or my period here in the military, and moved on with life. And some of them we've been able to keep contact with online, and others have just progressed on with their life, and we wish them the best. Now, the next question, a little more topical to what I was talking about. So how has COVID-19 impacted your involvement in the fandom? And what impact do you think it has had on the fandom in a whole, if any?
Well,
The con exist.
yeah, let's see. How has COVID-19? I mean, I wouldn't have run an event and founded an event and given most of my free time over the last, 3 months to an event if not for COVID. So it has very directly affected my life, and that PonyFest exists because of it. And therefore that's just one of those like very blunt, well, it happened. Sorry. As for the fandom as a whole, I mean, the major thing that we're seeing is that the physical events are canceled so that, people can't go and see their friends the way they like to. And also the other part was that a lot of people, especially in that late March, early April period where everyone was in quarantine together, suddenly we're bored and we're looking for something to do. And there were online events at that point that gave them something to do and connect with. So, we had this brief period of people reconnecting, and that was really cool. And it's given this, a little different vibe of energy that I think we're going to see for the duration of this pandemic. We're just, because we're inside more, and because the fandom is inherently an online fandom first and foremost, that's going to lead to more activity. Cole?
Yeah. No, I think you're right there. Obviously, COVID has had a huge effect on the fandom. I mean, the fact that we can't have the only events that I went to this year that involved the fandom were Vancouver Pony Expo up in Canada, and then HarmonyCon in Texas. Those were the two that made it before COVID really hit hard over here. But obviously, like the fact that everything has had to cancel, that is a rather big deal. And this kind of ties into the previous question as well about just the state of the fandom generally. After two things happened. We had the show concluding, and then we had BronyCon, the largest. Sorry, there's something that popped up for a second. The largest event in the fandom. Those both ended in 2019, and so looking into 2020, at least from a con runner's perspective, there was this sort of fog of war almost, where no one was quite sure what's really going to happen. Is the energy just going to die because the show has ended? Are we going to see an uptick in our attendance because BronyCon has ended and made...
just because I keep getting asked it a year later, no, BronyCon is not coming back.
There you go, definitively out of the way. Yeah. But just the fact that it has left that gap, there's people that maybe can only afford to go to one convention a year, and they'll choose BronyCon because it was like Brony Mecca, right? Now that that's not gone, there were more attendees available to go to all these other events. And I believe HarmonyCon did see a little bit of an uptick that is at least partially attributable to that.
I know TrotCon was seeing a definite surge.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, TrotCon was seeing a big increase as well. And before COVID really hit in the US, our Everfree's numbers were trending up as well. And that was very reassuring. We were pretty much thinking this could be like our biggest year in a long time. And then COVID hit, and that throws a wrench into everything, and it kind of extends that fog of war period. Well, where now there's going to be so much time that has passed between like the most recent cons and the next ones that things could be different. There might be, maybe we will see a loss of energy. It's basically, I feel like what'll happen now in 2021, back when hopefully we can start having these events again, that I feel might be the litmus test to indicate the overall health of, I won't say the whole fandom, but just the con scene generally, because I do think that's an important distinction to make. Cons, while they're extremely important to the fandom, they are not the entirety of the fandom. There's still a lot of bronies out there that have never even been to a single event, and they just connect with other fans online, different art communities, different places like 4chan, even places, different forums online, EQD. So a fandom as interesting and diverse as ours, there's a lot of different ways people use to socialize and connect with each other. Cons are just one of those. But I do think it'll be interesting to see what happens when we come out of this COVID cloud. Are we going to be able to kind of keep things going the same way as before? And there's also, sorry, I'll try to wrap up here pretty soon, but that's also an interesting factor. People have been pointing out that because of COVID, in many, many, many different industries, things are probably going to be changed up forever. I've seen articles discussing things that will permanently be changed anywhere there's a large gathering, at concerts, sporting events, certain business models like buffets. I don't imagine buffets are going to come back anytime soon. So there will be lasting effects, and it might be one of those things where cons specifically might be hit pretty hard, not just this year, but by the lasting effects of COVID too. So we hope for the best, but we'll wait and see what happens.
All I can say from my perspective, so again, like I said, I spent the last year, basically the last 7 months before I got back to the United States in late February, right? And started going back to, and took like some time off, but that's when, of course, everything hit. So I know that my personal experience in the fandom has been put on hold quite a bit by the virus, because I wasn't able to go. My one con a year, if I couldn't make it to any others, was usually BABSCon in San Francisco, just because of the convenience from San Diego, right? And that has been suspended for the year, and just about everybody else's. I didn't know about Dexanth. I didn't even know about your con, so maybe we need to get some advertising going for you here. But
we're in hibernation at the moment, basically. Like, we did 3 events in as many months, so the staff has decided we need a rest very badly.
I mean, and that makes sense. It's just, it put a damper on, my whole thing. I had a whole bunch of goals coming back from deployment, and one of them was to get back into the social life and see the fandom and see where people are at, and that has just not really been possible. I've kept in touch with a small group of local fans, like James and our friends and stuff like that. But that's all I'm really able to do, because it's all been online. You can't go out and meet up with people, and my planned April trip to BABSCon did not happen. So.
Not for me either. Speaking of BABSCon. Not for me either. Speaking of BABSCon.
Yeah, speaking of BABSCon, we have FableCharm here. FableCharm, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your organization, and answer the question after that. What do you think the state of the fandom is, and how has COVID impacted it, if any?
But you get to do it super quick because the rest of us had like 5 minutes.
Totally, no worries. No, thanks for inviting me on here. I'm grateful to be on this panel once again. My name is FableCharm. I am the chair of BABSCon. I was chair for 2020 and also 2018. But I'm also on the board of directors. Harmonious Elements is the nonprofit organization that is in charge of BABSCon. So we run BABSCon. We run BABSCon, the Bay Area Bronies Spectacular in San Francisco. We'll be hopefully coming back for 2021 since we, as you all know, canceled 2020. We have been doing online, or we did one online version of the con, and we're hoping to do another one again sometime soon. So be on the lookout for that. And what I think, what the whole COVID thing has done to both the fandom and like the conventions at large, it's had people think about like it's almost like back to basics. Like, what is the true nature of a convention? Like, why do cons exist? What do people get out of a con? And it's like, can we do that virtually, or can we do that? Is there a way we can do that without having to have like people physically present? And as all the very many online cons have been discovering, is that yes, through media like Twitch or Discord or web things, YouTube streams and things like that, you can sort of bring like I would say like maybe 85 to like 90% of like physically what is at the con can be done online. But I think a lot more interesting things can be done that like we haven't, not even like that's kind of sort of tapped into yet. I think that there is a different dynamic that happens when things are online. Things are asynchronous. You don't have to be there live to experience it. But even for those that are there live, like what more can you do? I think that there's more opportunities for things like audience participation. People, like, instead of just being one of many in a panel, you could be one of many like faces on a Zoom call, and then you can be participating in ways that maybe a stage with chairs and microphones isn't the best for. So sort of pushing the boundaries of what can be at a con, what is a con, do you need to be physically there to like bring the spirit of the con forward? I think that there's a lot of innovation that can happen there, and that's what hopefully BABSCon and other cons are going to be doing. So.
Okay, next set of questions, and I'm going to roll this all together since Comic-Con's asked us to limit this down to 40 minutes. If you read the comics, what's your opinion of Season 10 being published by IDW? What's your opinion of Hello Pinkie Pie, which are videos put out on the Hasbro channel on YouTube?
That's the 3D one, right?
Right, the
3D,
one that's kind of like the talk show one. And what's your opinion of what they have put out for Pony Life?
Really quickly, I'm going to go in order of least excited to most excited myself. Hello Pinkie Pie, I had honestly forgotten existed until this minute. I think prior to that, I had some vague awareness of it, and I suspect after this, I will go back to having some vague awareness of it. My view is basically right now, if Andrea Lemon is not involved, it's not Pinkie Pie. With that said, Pony Life has the main cast involved, so it's definitely more Pony, but it's still got a whole lot of the core team not involved. Mm-hmm. So, it honestly feels like mom and dad divorced, and one of them owns the IP and is claiming it's the same thing, but it's not quite the same thing. Now, the thing that makes it different is that Season 10 is born of a creative team that kind of, naturally arose in its own way. And while, I will absolutely say, ultimately, if you're not the original creator of a work, in the end, anything you add to it is kind of, your own headcanon and your own official fan fiction. So with that said, to me, I look at season 10 as official fan fiction, but then I honestly look at everything that anyone who was not Lauren, as in a way kind of is official fan fiction because of her Equestria that all of this was first set in.
You're one of those. Lauren hasn't been involved since season 2.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of the point, is
Nothing
that
exists after.
the whole journey has always been, so much of creative works ultimately are just us deciding who the person who gets to write the fan fiction is. And in that regard, it's like, if people like it, awesome. Cool.
Yeah, so on those fronts, I can't say I know much about the comic. I used to collect them back when the comic was first being announced, but I kind of fell off of that wagon pretty quickly. As for Hello Pinkie Pie, I have to agree, it is weird that they went with a different VA for that. And I recall seeing, like, when that first went up, there was like a Twitter thing where Andrea Libman had like a heart and like a dagger emoji or something. Someone asked like how she felt about that. So it is odd that the voice is different, but I don't particularly care. And I'll segue into Pony Life with this fact with that as well. A lot of people seem to have issues with it. All I've really seen are the various trailers, and I saw the thing that came out the other day about it. It's obviously very, very, very different from the original series. A lot of people have been comparing it to Teen Titans Go, how that related to the original Teen Titans. The art style is almost similar too, but you can tell what they're trying to accomplish with that one is very different. It doesn't have the same motivations behind it. That's not to say that I hope it fails. I'm not particularly interested in it myself, but I've always taken the perspective that if there's something, even if something is canon or in that spectrum of canonicity somewhere, it's okay to ignore things if you don't really find them interesting. I mean, that's kind of what we've been able to do with Equestria Girls. I don't mind Equestria Girls, but there were a lot of people that really did not like that. And guess what? The way it was made, they encapsulated it into its own series of films and stuff, and you can completely ignore it if you choose to do that, and you're not really missing out on anything. There's not any vital story that's happening in there that you have to be privy to. So I think it's okay. Part of what fandom means to me is it's that active participation in the work, but you get to tool what that means to you. You get to choose your own level of involvement, and if you're not particularly interested in a certain thing, ignore it. People have been doing that with the Star Wars holiday special for years. People have been doing that with the completely non-existent Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. So, same things can apply here, I think.
Wait, there's not an Avatar movie?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
What?
It completely does not exist.
What movie?
So this is just this whole conversation is just going to show how out of it I've been with not being in this country for a year, or 7 months or so, a little longer, because I barely know what any of these shows are. So now I know I have some research to do to go look at all this stuff. For me, it was just the confluence of the main show ending right as I was ramping up to go overseas. So I missed a lot of that stuff. I did used to read the comics a lot, but again, it's kind of hard to get paper comics when you are in Africa. So they just don't really sell them over there, and there's not a comic book store on. Anyway, right? So I in general had a pretty good response to the IDW comics. I read them quite a bit when they were first coming out. I just haven't recently. So I can't give a great answer for this because I haven't been keeping up with it because I've been overseas, and then moving to this house. I've been putting it off, but I guess probably I have time to get back into it now, so I'll have to take a look.
I'm actually really excited that IDW is doing like the season 10, like they've like canonically made it like, hey, you want season 10 of the show?
That is
make
fun.
it the comics. Like I know at BABSCon and other cons too, we always invite the comic artists and the writers and things. And they always talk about how they have all these great ideas. Like in a way, they are sort of like if Bronies, like the fans were to like kind of take over the My Little Pony property and do stuff, like I kind of see that spark in them. where they want to do like really cool things that maybe the show like doesn't want to do, or like, oh, maybe they don't want to touch on that. And they've talked a lot about how they've wanted to do really interesting ideas. Like they go, oh, they want a Discord backstory. And they go, oh no, the show might go into that. So like Hasbro says, no, don't do that just yet. They eventually, I don't know. But like those are the sorts of ideas. And now that the show isn't there, like possibly like usurping like their ideas, or like, oh, save that idea because the show might need it. Now they can like roam free and be like, okay, like this is what Pony sort of means to them. Here's like the high adventure, like high fantasy ideas that they wanted to put in that maybe they couldn't do before because they were a little bit restrained. So I'm looking to see, I'm loving, you know, what can be done in the comics now that they don't have the show as a, oh, they need to not do things because the show might do them. One good example is they're going to have Zecora has a whole like family, a whole like tribe of zebras. And I know it was a famous thing that Hasbro like didn't want there to be like a group of zebras. There's just one zebra and it was Zecora. So now the next, I believe the first of the season 10 comics will involve going to Zecora's place and meeting a bunch of like zebra ponies, and they're all like based on like ice and like fire and water. And it's so interesting, all these really interesting ideas that I know the show probably wouldn't do, but in the medium of comics you can. So I'm super excited for season 10 in the comics.
You know, actually, I can relate to that. We just talked about Avatar: The Last Airbender. The comics are excellent, and they fill in a lot of plot gaps and things that fans were wondering about that weren't the core focus of the show, but everyone, you know, was interested in seeing, and it's formed a continuation of the series in between that and Legend of Korra. So I think it's a cool idea to definitely do a season 10 in comics because, yeah, you can definitely explore stuff that there wasn't time to explore, right? Comics, you can get a much more sprawling narrative that you can't get in a TV show. Even one with a massive budget, there's only so much time per episode. So
yeah.
So we have about 3 minutes left on this recording because we started about 10 minutes late, which means I'm probably going to have to edit that 10 minutes out to be able to get to that time that Comic-Con wants, which is 40 minutes. So with the limited time we have left, 2 questions. The first one's a yes or no question. Are Bronies furries? Then tell us how we can find out more about your different organizations.
No, they're not. Furries are self-identified, and you can find us on either ponyfest.horse online or our Twitter handle @ponyfestonline.
There's a .horse? That's amazing. Yeah.
The way you said that, like, furries are this. You can find us, like, oh, you can find the furries at that site. Okay. Gotcha.
No, I do not identify as a furry.
Okay. Glad that's cleared up. I agree. Bronies are not furries. It is a self-identifying thing. I think there are superficial similarities, but they evolved separately. It's convergent evolution, if you will. As for Everfree Northwest, you can find out more information at everfreenw.com. You can also follow our Twitter, which is @everfreenw. Find all the information you need there. If you want, you can give me a follow. My Twitter is @Daigneault, ColeDaigneault.
No, I don't believe that Bronies are furries. I agree with him that there are separate fandoms, that there is definitely some overlap. I have some very good friends who are both, but you do not have to be. And I think the vast majority of the people who joined following the 2010 show are probably, at least didn't start out as furries. So, and I don't have an organization website to give you, so pass that one on.
I also think that Bronies are not furries. It's exactly as Simul said, like, surface level, it might seem that they are similar, but they're not really. And you can find more about BABSCon. Come if you are a furry, we're your first dude at BABSCon. We love that stuff. We can find us at babscon.com, BABSCON.com. We also have a Twitter that's super active and super fun, at BABSCon. You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube. If you missed out on BABSCon Online, you can find all of the panels and all of the music, all of the concerts and stuff on our YouTube website, youtube.com/BABSCon. So check us out there.
Once again, thanks everyone for participating in this panel. This will be posted to the Comic-Con channel actually here, and I'll probably edit this out from the recording, but let me see here. I can give that to you. The date that they'll be releasing it is noon on the 26th of July. So expect to see yourself on their channel come the 26th. Thanks once again, and hopefully we all keep in touch and everyone stays healthy and have a prosperous time during these difficult times.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you
sure.
so much.
Thanks so much for having us.
Take care.
Had a lot of fun.
Thank you.